What's up everyone, back with another episode of Stuff and Things. This is gonna be one of our last free nights here in Pennsylvania, and you probably don't even recognize where I'm at right now. Let me walk over here and see if it sparks your memory at all. Now this might look kind of familiar to some of you guys. I'm up here on the family's land at the range, and clearly it doesn't really get used much anymore. I have filmed so many dang videos up here, and I figured while we're here in Pennsylvania, it's kind of our last free night, might as well come stay and check it out, see how it's doing. The grass is really high, but that's kind of to be expected. Now, the real purpose of this video is to show you guys a new camping tool. I can't even really call it a knife or a blade because it's a kind of mashup of a lot of different things. While I've been here in Pennsylvania, of course, the last 2 days I went over and visited my buddy Ryan at 2Feathers Productions, and we immediately got to work of designing something new. Again, not a knife, not a blade, but more of a camping tool that kind of is a jack of all trades. I'm really here to test it, so I'm not exactly sure what it will be super proficient at and other things it might be lacking in, but I designed it with one specific purpose in mind. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this is going to be a collaborative product that Ryan will continue to make, but if it's something that you guys think that you might be interested in, I think a lot of you out there will think it's pretty cool. You should go over and follow him on Instagram. He's very close to 3,000 followers, and shoot him a follow, drop him a comment and say, make this new thing, make the new tool, and I think we're going to be calling it the Ignite. So without further ado, let's take a look at this thing. Now, the idea behind the Ignite came up a few months back when Ryan was out in Colorado visiting me at Overland Expo. We were talking about different blades that we could come up with when I came back to Pennsylvania to visit, and at the time I was really interested in sort of a multi-tool blade, axe, hatchet, just kind of like a weird looking tool when you look at it, but I wanted to design it in a way that it had multiple functions. So this is the thing that we came up with right here. We started with the original design of the blade kind of based off of the very first cleaver that we made. I believe Ryan only ever made 3 of those and sold them, so there are 3 mini cleavers out there. I have one of them, and some of you guys out there may have got in on that drop when they came out. So we took that design, made it a little bit bigger than those mini cleavers. We're looking at about a 4-inch blade by about 3 inches wide, so it's kind of like a meat cleaver, but then Ryan put a secondary bevel on it, almost making it kind of like a tanto shape, or in this case, it's gonna kind of act as an axe or a hatchet. Now, instead of bringing the grind all the way up close to the spine of the blade, we left a lot of meat there. That way this thing weighs a lot out on the front. It's about 14 inches overall, and with the majority of that weight being out towards the blade, this thing can chop like crazy. Now, coming down towards the top of the handle, we did add some finger grooves in there, kind of inspired by the 2F7. We have 3 of them in a row there, that way your fingers kind of have something to fall into because you can kind of choke up on this. There's even a little bit of a thumb ramp grounded to the back, and that's gonna be good for feather sticking. My idea behind this was really to start fires with it, kind of process firewood. Instead of just beating a 2F7 through a piece of wood, through a log, I figured something like this might do a lot better. So with the grooves up there, you can kind of choke up on the blade and actually get some really nice fine kindling with it. And then when we move to the bottom of the handle, that's where we put this big flare on there. Of course, orange scales. We had to do orange scales because I was looking for an axe to leave in my van and I couldn't find anything locally, so I swung by Ryan's and he was like, dude, let's just make that thing we were talking about. So orange G10 handles with a big swooping kind of hook on the end of it. That way, when you are all the way down on the bottom of this, you can really chop with it like a cleaver, a hatchet, almost like a mini axe. So the reason for the name Ignite is really because I wanted to have a kind of do-it-all tool which would allow me to start fires really easily. So we have that kind of sweeping axe blade on there, and then at the top of the blade and even down the front here, Ryan actually put a crown on those angles. So you can kind of use it as scraping. You could really use it as a blunt force tool on the back of it. I guarantee you I could crush cinder blocks with this point on here and it would be devastating. Now this is of course made out of some really thick stock. This one happens to be 1095. So there is a little bit of hammer activity in the blade, which is pretty cool to see come out as Ryan brought this thing to life. And then because of that big swoop on the bottom of the handle here, you could actually use this to kind of hammer stakes into the ground, which is something that I find doing quite often. Even though I don't tent camp, I'm always in situations where people are hammering things into ground at like expos and events to keep pop-up tents down. So you have a nice wide base on there, that way you can hammer stakes into the ground as well. Now this tool, just like all of the other knives that Ryan makes, is going to be bomb-proof, I know for a fact. And this thing just feels even more bomb-proof than some of the knives that we've collaborated on in the past, mainly for the size of it. It's coming in at about 1 pound 14 ounces, so just under 2 pounds. And then we have a mini kind of edge cover here. We thought about doing a sheath, but I figured this would be a kind of cooler way to do it. So it's really just friction fit onto the end. You kind of drop the point of the blade in, and then that thing is completely stuck on there. Kydex sheath with some rivets, and I think I'm gonna put some paracord on there in the future. That way it makes pulling it off even a little bit easier. Now I am about to lose daylight here, so let's jump into some practical applications for this thing, at least in my opinion, and also some not practical applications that this thing may still succeed at just because of how Ryan put the edge on this thing. It's so damn cool. All right, this is not what I had in mind at all, but camp tool, right? Of course it's going to be able to chop up wood to make a fire. What can it do with some food? Let's start with an orange. Probably just like let the weight of the knife kind of do this. It's already cutting into it just because of how much weight is out here on the end. But easy, light work. How about one of my favorite vegetables? Good old pepper. Guess we'll start by taking the top off of that there. It's a little wide to kind of dig into here, but you get the idea. Should do this left-handed so you guys can see it a little better. Yeah, not too bad. And you can even scoop the peppers up because it's like a spatula. Throw them right in a pan. Now this is going to be one of the hardest ones of the food prep. Tomato. I have already chopped into some wood and some 2x4s and things like that just to kind of test it. So it's probably not like razor sharp, and it really shouldn't be because we designed it to chop and slice and stuff. But let's just give this a try. See if we can get a really thin one here. I mean, come on now. I'm no chef, but that's pretty good for something that we didn't even plan on doing with it. All right, I'm just having fun at this point.
What's up, dog?
What's going on, dude?
I don't mean to interrupt the blade making, but we gotta talk about this thing.
Absolutely.
What is it? What is this in your opinion?
It's a camp tool, ultimate camp tool.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been saying this whole time. But I figured while I'm still here, I would come back and we would abuse it a little bit more. I've already cut fruit and vegetables and stuff that we didn't plan on doing with it. But I figured we could use it for its intended purpose and make a fire with it.
Perfect. Absolutely.
All right, normal test when you finish a blade, you're always cutting paper. You actually have already push cut through a roll of cardboard. So
I'll try and cut a tube with them, or most of the time it's just cutting paper. So we'll just do a quick cut test for it.
And that's plenty sharp for what, like, it shouldn't even really be that sharp, to be honest.
Not for what we designed it for.
Yeah.
But when we were able to push cut a tube, it's like, all right, well, it's definitely sharp enough.
Wait till you see the super thin slice of tomato I cut with it last night. It's just like
yeah.
the weight of it. I was honestly really surprised with how it cut.
So did it smash the tomato at all, or did it just cut the
No,
tomato?
even after, I mean, smashing it into the target and doing all that stuff, it still cut it pretty well. And I mean, we were kind of beating on it a little bit.
Right.
So now this right here is what it's really for. I mean, let's act like we're going to start your fire over here, even though it's not that cold. That right there is so satisfying, by the way. There's so much weight out on the end that you just kind of let it swing its weight into the log. And although it's going on that secondary bevel, it just sticks every time.
Chop test.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's for right there. There's something just so satisfying about that.
Okay, so I mean, it's definitely petrified dead wood. It's been standing dead for a long time, and it's still enough force to bury into the log face that you're splitting on.
All right, one more.
Ooh,
Just needed a little extra convincing.
kind of short.
So that's going to be the first step of creating a fire. Now, oh my God, that was buried in there. With the grip on here, the little bit of a thumb ramp, I actually saw you kind of testing with this a little bit. We're kind of holding it up against your knee.
Yeah.
So there's all different ways because of how this was designed to actually process the wood down even further. So you kind of brace it on your knee and just...
So you can do feather sticks this way in a more controlled manner, or we can choke up on it.
I mean, that'll help with starting a fire right there, that's for sure. And I was always kind of talking about how I take a 2F7 and baton it through a piece of wood. But
Yeah.
with this and the extra weight, you don't have to do that. Or
No,
I
but
should
you
say,
definitely could.
you could. So this would be a case where really hard wood, maybe a little knotty even. But so what kind of bevel did you put on there? We kind of went back and forth. Like, you didn't want to make it razor sharp, but you had a ton of material there to make it really sharp.
Yeah.
We wanted it to split though. So what did it end up being?
So actually what I did is a razor blade has a 200 slope, and we went a little bit more knifey than that at a 185. But because we had so much material, I was okay with it because it's a nice gradual taper to make it cut and chop real well. But we have enough material that'll just like wedge it out then.
Yeah. It's less of a bevel, but it kind of opens up, which
Right.
I guess allows it to split.
Yep. I mean, we could have made it more axe-like, but I'd rather have a knifey axe.
Yeah, it's like a weird knifey axe hatchet tool.
Yeah.
Sick. All right, before I go, you might make these. I told people you might. Ryan is almost at 3,000 followers, and at 3,000 followers, he's going to do a giveaway. Don't know what that looks like yet, but go bother him and tell him to make this weird camp tool thing because it's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's definitely enjoyable.
And then you also have some other blades up on the site right now, so can we look at those while
Sure.
I'm here?
Absolutely.
You got a whole table of stuff here. These actually look familiar to me.
Yeah, so celebration of 3 years in business, I wanted to make you a custom set of knives. So I took our collabs and slightly modified them. So I'm gonna do one more set of them. So you have a set that's completely custom, and then we're doing one more set, and that's all that'll exist.
Yeah, and I don't have these with me to show you guys on video, but I'll post a photo over on Instagram. You're selling these as a set, so like the mini tack horse and the mini workhorse.
Yep.
Different handle styles on each one.
Right, so these are similar, just I changed the handle up for more of like what we've been doing with our collabs with the swoop. And then we're just doing quite a few other things here. So,
You got a lot of stuff here.
so we're gonna bring a camping line setup. So we got food prep / camping tool. I modified, and we're changing the 2F7 here.
This 2F7 is probably the best one that I've seen to date. I mean, I have mine from 2 years ago, but it just looks so much cleaner now.
And then a couple like one-offs here. So changing up the little things for a thrower. Got a new boot knife. That'll be a one-off, not customly offered.
This thing is super stabby as well, too. This thing is really cool. I even like this one. What is this one called?
So I'm pretty sure it's going to be called the BR3, and we're going to distinguish some categories here on the website here soon. So different pommels are going to be for different features. So we're going to have an EDC line, but more of like a battle-ready knife, and then we're just going smaller with it.
And then last but not least,
we got a pack knife.
that is one of the cooler things that I've seen you make in the past 2 years.
Absolutely. So idea is not to belt carry, but put it in your backpack.
It's got Hammond activity. It's surprisingly light too. Like you would think that this would weigh significantly more than the Ignite tool that we just made, but it's deceptively light.
It is. It feels lighter in hand than the Ignite, but it weighs a little bit more.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
That thing's cool.
So all of that stuff is available over on Ryan's website right now. I'll leave a link for that in the description down below. And that's it for this quick story about how just random ideas turned into this cool hatchet axe tool. I find this super useful. I think I'm gonna get a lot of use out of it. I'm actually excited to go and kind of use it when it's the only thing that I have, because I'm so used to using the 2F7. But you guys will see me swinging this thing around in some future videos. If you have any questions on this or the knives here or anything that Ryan does, drop a comment down below. And if you're new to the channel, consider clicking subscribe, because I make new videos every single week. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.